very good job if you guys walk out of here and you thought, oh, that was a nice talk. That is a nice sermon. When you talk about something like money and somebody says, oh, yeah, that was lovely. Yeah, very nice. Great talk. Thank you, Pastor. Then you're doing something wrong. Okay, let me say this. What is the phrase, wat is die frase wat die meeste in die evangelies aandag kry? Ander woorde, wat is die ding waaroor Jesus die meeste praat? Enige teikers? Ek het geld? Okay. Well done, Arnold. Okay. It is a bit of a trick question, I'll admit. I mean, I said, okay, ons gaan praat oor geld vandag. Wat is die ding waaroor Jesus die meeste praat? I mean, it seems like I'm leading you to say money. But the correct answer is the kingdom of God. So Jesus talks more about the kingdom of God than anything else, which is weird because we need to figure out why are we so obsessed always about going to heaven, where Jesus' main message was not going to heaven, it is heaven has come down here. The kingdom of God it's among you. It's right here, right now. Okay, but that's a topic for another day. The second most, you guys weren't far off. The thing he addresses the second most in the Gospels is the issue of money, geld. Very interesting. Now, I want to read you guys a parable. It's from Luke 12. It's very well known, and I think we need to rescue this from familiarity. So this is Luke 12 from verse 13. It says this. Someone from the crowd said to him being Jesus, "Teacher, tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me." Okay, and then Jesus responds, "Man, who appointed me a judge or arbitrator over you?" He then told them, "Watch out and be on your guard against all greed, because one's life is not in the abundance of his possessions." Then he told them a parable. A rich man's land was very productive. He thought to himself, "What should I do, since I don't have anywhere to store my crops? I will do this," he said. "I'll tear down my grain and I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones and store all my grain and my goods there. Then I'll say to myself, you have many goods stored up for many years. Take it easy, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself." But God said to him, "You fool, this very night your life is demanded of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? That's how it is with the one who stores up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God." All right, so let's dissect this passage a little bit. So it was part of a rabbi's responsibility in first century Israel to deal with these sort of, dare I say, stupid questions. Because if you were a religious leader, you were a law professional as well. You gave advice about everything, okay? So they didn't have these strict, okay, this guy's a lawyer, this guy's an accountant. So the rabbis, they did pretty much everything. So this guy is not entirely unreasonable in his request, although it sounds very weird to the 21st century South African ear. I mean, I would be quite flustered if I'm doing a talk here, let's say, about, I don't know, the lilies of the field or something, and then one of you put your hand up, interrupt me. Johan, just tell my brother to divide the inheritance with me. You know, that would put me off guard. But apparently, it wasn't so weird in that context. But notice Jesus' response. He says, "Man." Now, when Jesus, or anybody for that matter, responds to your request by saying, "Man, who made me an arbitrator, who made me a judge over your affairs? I'm not a divorce lawyer. I couldn't care less about it." Then you know you're in trouble, okay? So this is a very rude way for Jesus to respond to a question that was very common in those days. So it's very harsh, the way that Jesus responds. But why? Because Jesus did not come to this world. He didn't come into this world to settle certain financial disputes, because what he can say is, okay, bring the older brother here. Older brother, you must pay this. Younger brother, you must pay this. And now we've got a settlement. That's not the kind of settlement that Jesus is interested in, because those two brothers will never speak to each other again. The only reason why they are speaking to each other at the moment is because the one brother doesn't have the money yet. That's the only way that they are still in contact with each other. Otherwise, they would have been in their separate houses or towns or whatever, and they would have never spoken to each other again. And Jesus is not interested to create that sort of division. So if this guy came with this sort of question, he said, look, Jesus, we've got a financial dispute in our family, and if it's not resolved, I think it is a fair, my request is a fair one, but if it's not resolved, then, well, I risk losing this whole relationship with my brother and his family. And I think we need somebody objective to just judge the situation from the outside. I think Jesus would have heard that request. But he didn't hear this very self-righteous, tell my brother to do this. It's so reminiscent of our current political climate, the self-righteousness that comes in when we talk about money. And I mean, that is a side note. But that is the main reason why Jesus is not interested, because it just comes with so much self-righteousness, there's no openness, and it's not interested in reconciliation between brothers. It's interested in give me my share, that's all I want. Now, Jesus uses this as an opportunity to talk about greed. Now, Jesus, like I said, speaks more about greed, with the exception of the kingdom of God. He speaks more about greed. He warns us about greed all the time. Why is Jesus so obsessed with money? Or at least, why is he so obsessed warning us against the powers of money, the grip that money can have on the human heart? Why is he so obsessed with it? He warns us about money the whole time because in the church, we don't really speak about money, which proves his point. He warns us about money all the time, yet when we read that, oh yeah, Jesus is talking about money. Okay, cute. All right, next one. Let's talk about salvation, Lord. Let's talk about the real stuff. We skip over it the whole time, and maybe that is the reason why Jesus focuses on it the whole time. Here's another problem. He warns us against money, but when we talk about money, we've turned it into a virtue. Ons het 'n deeg daarvan gemaak, van iets wat blaatante sonde is. So let me give you an example. If I ask you, many of you guys consider yourself Christians. Some other people might even consider you guys, they take their faith seriously. They're big Christians. I never know what to make of that. He's a big Christian. Like, he's 6'4". He's a real big Christian, you know. But you guys might be big Christians. And when I ask you, if I ask Jaco, how's it going with Andre? How's it going with him? Then it would not be unreasonable. I would not be surprised if Jaco says, it's going very well with Andre. He's doing very well for himself. That is a very reasonable response. Have you ever heard that response? How's it going with that guy? He's doing very well for himself. Now, here's the thing. That is a normal response, but it is blatant sin. It is blatant sin that we've normalized. He's doing well for himself. So I like to have fun with it when people say, no, he's doing well for himself. Then I always say, oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that. Is he not doing well for other people? It's really, really sad. I mean, I didn't know he went into this very self-righteous, greedy path where he's only good for himself. I'm really sorry to hear that. Maybe we must go visit him. And then usually the response is, no. No, I mean, he's very successful. Oh, he's very successful. So he's a good dad, is he? Is he a successful dad? Is he a successful prayer? Does he pray a lot? Is he successful in that department? Is he a successful husband? Is he good to his wife? Is he successful in his contribution to the community? Is he successful? No, I mean, he makes a lot of money. Oh, okay, all right. So you mean he is financially successful. Why didn't you say that? Why did you say he's successful? That's a very stupid way of saying it. You meant he's financially successful. Okay, now I get it. Thanks. Okay. You must really think how you use your words. Right? Now, obviously, these people don't talk to me much after that. But the point is clear that the way that we talk about money, it's become so entrenched that we think it's normal. That is not a normal way to talk about it. To say that someone is successful, and everybody in this room knows that I am referring to financial success, that is a problem. That is a problem. To say something like he's doing well for himself, and for that to be normal, that is a problem. And it's because money has a grip on our hearts. Even these little Christian Pretoria West community here, and I mean, you guys are not supposed to be the big problems because you're effectively meeting in a garage. So you guys are supposed to be some of the good guys, but you're not. You guys go with it. We are part of the problem. We don't know how deep it is. You know what's interesting? When we prioritize sin, when we think of a homosexual, okay, then when this guy is perpetuating homosexual activities, then I will look in on this guy and I will say, oh, he's a gay. He's gay, that guy. Let's take something else. Let's say somebody is he cheats on his wife. Then I will say, oh yeah, that guy, he's an adulterer. That's what he is. He's an adulterer. Or worse, that guy, well, not worse, I guess, but that guy is a murderer or something. So we take various sins and we make it a problem. So if you're a murderer, you're going to know about it. You're a murderer. That's your identity now. But yet, Jesus spends way more time talking about greed than he does talking about homosexuality, than he does talking about adultery. Now look, I'm not trying to say that those things are okay, but I've never heard somebody walking past a guy and say, oh yeah, that guy's a greed. He's a greed. He's a big greed, that guy. We don't talk like that. You know, we don't say, oh ja, nee, daai ou is 'n geldgierig. Daai ou is 'n regte geldgierig. We don't talk about it, but we will say, oh no, that guy's an adulterer. We will say that guy is a gay. Why do we prioritize these sins, but we don't look at the thing that Jesus prioritizes, which is the issue of greed? I think some introspection is very much in order. You know what? I've been on this earth now for 32 years, okay? And I've never met a rich person. It's quite amazing. I've never met a rich person in my life. So I've met a person. Well, not met. We regularly visit people who do very well for themselves. They're very successful, and we visit them, and they stay in this affluent neighborhood, very affluent neighborhood, probably the most affluent neighborhood in the city. It's a 6-bedroom mansion, and it's got the finishes. You know, it's really, really nice. And when you eat there, I love visiting them because the food is just amazing. And when we sit there, and I'm in this, I pretend to be this lord of my manor for this day. Almost every second time we meet there, you know where the conversation goes? They would talk about friends of theirs, and they say, no, those people are really rich. Those people, they've got a lot of money. You should see their house. You should see their beach house. It's something else. Now, those people are really rich. It's interesting that these people aren't rich. Why? Because there are other people who are richer. So they aren't rich. They've got all these other people who are rich. And you know what's the irony? If I visit their rich friends, when I talk to them, they will say, yes, you must meet Frikkie. That guy's rich. That guy's got money. I mean, we've got nothing. We've got nothing. The reality is, or the result of all of this is that nobody is rich. Maybe with the possible exception of Jeff Bezos. I think that guy knows, okay, now I'm rich. That's the founder, CEO of Amazon. I think he knows he's rich. Or Bill Gates. He's like, okay, I get it, I'm rich. But if you're not part of that group of 5, the rest of the world is always, no. I mean, that guy's rich. I don't have money. That guy is rich. So I've never met a rich person in my life. It's quite amazing. I'm not sure if you've ever met a rich person in your life, but I've never met a rich person. And we've got other ways in which we hide behind this. So, for instance, we will watch shows like Top Billing. Oh, look how these people live. Oh, you know, look at their house. Look at their wedding. Oh, no, that's just a lot of money. Or if you are less sophisticated and from a different era, there was a show called MTV Cribs, okay? And I'm afraid I did now and then fall into I relapsed into sin, and I would watch MTV Cribs, and it's basically just really immature Hollywood personalities, and then you can show. Then they show how they've got a bowling alley in their bathroom, and who knew that you can relieve yourself and play a game of balls and Xbox at the same time. So then you go into this world of theirs, and you're just so amazed at everything. And if you're slightly more sophisticated, every time I'm in trouble with Lorraine, I would occasionally buy a little magazine called Habitat, which is this fancy interior decorating thing. So whenever she asks for something, I just say, well, here's pictures of it. Maybe that'll help you out. So we do that, and then we just see how these other people live, and it makes us feel better. It helps us to first of all say, well, that's not my problem, and also we obsess about these things. Let me just park that there for a moment. I want to go back to this passage. Notice that this guy's called the rich fool. There are many other parables where Jesus refers to the protagonist in the parable as the rich man or the rich young man. And you know what's interesting about that is when that rich person is set up against somebody else, the other person has a name. So think about it. The rich man and Lazarus. That's interesting. This guy, he's just the rich man. This guy is Lazarus. So it's like the rich man and Frikkie. Why does he get to have a name? Because this is this guy's identity. He's just the rich man. That's what he does. He's got money. That's who I am. I am the rich man. Or it's a little bit like the professional rugby player or the really hot girl or whatever it is that is your identity. But I think Jesus' point is just know that money turns you into a rich man very quickly because beauty fades. Okay, sooner or later this girl realizes, okay, well, it's the Snow White phenomenon. There's a new girl, she's prettier than I am, and I need to get rid of. And then they develop a bit of a personality because now they can't just walk in a room and everybody falls down. They actually have to have a conversation, which doesn't have anything to do with my talk. But thank you for going with me in any case. The rich man, that is his identity. It's so tragic, so tragic. I'm the rich man. This is Lazarus. He's got an identity. He's a person. So that's the one thing. But it goes on like that. The story is so tragic. I want to read to you just again from verse 16. A rich man's land was very productive. He thought to himself, what should I do? Since I don't have anywhere to store my crops, I will do this, he said. I'll tear down my barns and build bigger ones. Then I'll say to myself, you have many goods. And so it goes on. This is a very tragic story. This guy's talking to himself. What should I do with my money, self? That's a great question, self. I think you should do this. I should do this. Yes, I think that is a great idea. He's having this conversation with himself. Now, that is tragic even by our standards, but by Middle Eastern standards, it's even more pathetic because they had conversations about everything, right? So if you go into that communal social culture, everybody's business is everybody's business. So if you wanted to, paint your house, then everybody comes in. Okay, let's deliberate about this thing. Everything was a conversation. But this guy is just talking to himself. I this, what should I do? The point is, money isolates us. Money isolates us. And I think that is what Luke is trying to get at. It has a way of isolating people like few other things. And you know who agrees with that idea? Tolkien. Because when he wrote The Lord of the Rings, the most tragic character in that whole book is a guy called Smeagol. And all Smeagol can do is look at a shiny ring and say, my precious, my precious. That's all he can do. He is so isolated. He's got the most valuable thing in the world, at least sort of power, monetary value thing. And all he can do with it is he can look at it and say, oh, my precious. And he withers away in the process. He disappears. He becomes this little faint little thingy that scares little children. That's what becomes of him. And it's not just him. Whenever somebody else holds on to the ring for long enough, what do? They isolate themselves. Oh, get away from me, Sam. Get away from me. You just want it for yourself. You start to fight. You isolate yourself. And that is profound insight, biblical insight from a guy like Tolkien, saying that's what money does, power does. It tends to isolate us. I've heard from many people who are willing to admit that they are rich, that they are incredibly lonely, very, very lonely. Actually, no, I lied earlier about saying I've never met a rich person. I think one girl at varsity, I think she knew she was rich and she knew her family was rich. But that girl had so many trust issues, because if you're her friend, are you her friend because you know that she comes from this very wealthy family, or do you really care about her? And I think many, many rich people suffer from this. They're paranoid about whether this person is really my friend. It just leads to more and more isolation. Just notice Isaiah 5. This is not a new thing. Isaiah 5, verse 8. Woe to those who add house to house and join field to field, until there is no more room and you alone are left in the land. That's such a nice image. You've bought the house next to yours. You've bought the farm next to your farm and the house. So what's happening now? You're the only person in a 30-kilometer radius. Well done, you're rich, but you're completely by yourself. And that would have made even more sense in a Middle Eastern ancient context. There's something tragic about how money tends to isolate us. Now, the purpose of the rich fool, the purpose, what he's all about, is revealed in the next verse. And this is his philosophy. He says this is verse 19. Then I'll say to myself, again, talking to himself, then I'll say to myself, you have many goods stored up for many years. Take it easy, eat, drink, and enjoy yourself. That's his philosophy that comes through there in the end. Take it easy, drink, eat, enjoy yourself. The technical term for that is hedonism. Hedonism. I've got everything, now I can just enjoy myself. I did good for myself, I did well for myself, now I can enjoy myself. I was successful, now I can enjoy my success. So that's hedonism that is revealed over there, okay? And then something happens that is quite comical in the story. But God said to him, you fool, this very night your life is demanded of you. End of the story. And you are supposed to look and say, okay, no, that's kind of sad. But there's actually quite a bit in that verse. When Jesus says, tonight you die, your life is demanded of you, just notice the language there. He's not saying, oh, tonight you die. It is, tonight I take your life from you. Now there's an interesting nuance there. Because the way that the language there is being used, the assumption is, your money, your life was never yours. I'm going to take it back. Thank you very much. So it's not as if this guy's saying, oh, and then I will die. You don't have any agency over it. Today I take your life from you. And the assumption is this: your life was just on loan. It was never yours. I just lent it to you for a while. And the implication is, your house, your money, I just borrowed it to you. You never even said thank you for this long-term loan. Okay, but by the way, I'm taking it back. And that's God's prerogative. And this guy never realized, oh, goodness me, this was a short-term loan. I never looked at it like that. I looked at it as my stuff that I have, and I'm going to dialogue with myself about my stuff. He never looked at it as a short-term loan, because that is exactly what it was. Now, here's the thing, friends. If you do not realize that what you have And you can maybe just realize it on a theological level. Oh, yeah, it's God's. But if that doesn't sink into your bones, then you will always be in trouble. If you don't realize that your house, your car, your money does not belong to you, then you will belong to your house, your money, and your car. Does that make sense? You can even quote that if you want. You can tweet it. I won't even ask for royalties. If you do not realize that your house, your car, your money does not belong to you, you will belong to your house, your car, and your money. It will lord it over you. You will not lord it over it. Does that make sense? And you know what? Even some of the secular thinkers are catching up to this these days. They are saying it's good to tithe. It's good to give money. But the reason they say it's good, it's quite interesting. I mean, because religious people have been saying this for a very long time. The reason it's good is when the first thing you do is you give money away, the principle behind it is, I am in control of my money. My money is not in control of me. And it's just a great statement to make. Okay, I'm going to give money away. Why? Because I'm not at the mercy of money. No, money is just a thing. I'm going to give it away. Thank you very much. It's such a good psychological exercise. And even the secular folks are catching up to this profound religious principle. If we do not understand that we are but stewards, you will struggle in this life if you do not understand that you are a steward. If you want to, if you want some biblical, proof for this, it's there in Psalm 4, verse 1. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants, belong to the Lord. Everything you have belongs to the Lord. What I find so interesting, and it came up yesterday as well in our race discussion. It comes up quite often. The question is, Johan, how are you going to? So how are white people going to give back the land? How are you going to give it back? Then I usually say, I don't like how you phrase that question. I know that is the political way of phrasing that question, but I don't like it. And let me tell you why. Because, look, I don't have a farm. So the actual question is that you should ask is, Johan, how are you going to give back your 1/8 of a townhouse in Ilardus Park that is without power as we speak? How are you going to give back that? How are you going to give back the house? How are you going to give back the land? Now, I don't like it because the assumption is that I stole the house. And it's not true. Yes, I had more opportunity because of an unjust system to maybe get a loan, to have my name next to a house that belongs to UPSA. But I get that there's a previous story, but I wouldn't say, I don't appreciate the language of I stole it. And now the reality is all that happens now is I'm on the defensive all of a sudden. No, I didn't steal it. You will not have it. Now I'm just defending and I'm going, phoning up lawyers. We're going to try and fight these land grabs. But it's actually so easy if you want to resolve it in this country. I don't want to trivialize it and I don't want to sentimentalize it. But it's so easy for me to make the mind shift when I realize, okay, it's not my house, but it's not yours either. It's God's. Because now the narrative is not, I'm not a criminal and I'm reaping the benefits of criminality. The rhetoric, the language is grace. What you have, it's just grace. And now I can think of how can I be gracious with my money, with my house? How can I share the land? How can I share the house? That is a good question. But now all of a sudden I'm not defensive anymore. I'm convicted because Psalm 24 said it wasn't mine in the first place. So the question is, how do you share that? And I think maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm sentimental, but if we get this in our country, then I think we'll have a lot of issues resolved. The way that the discussion is happening now, no, give back the land. That land belongs to black people. Well, I mean, the reality is that it's going to be in the hands of a black person, given the current political climate. And what is the point in me being a materialist, and now I'm just making somebody else a materialist. He's just got a different skin color, but we're still suffering from the same problem, which is materialism. I'm not helping the cause. The problem is we need to rescue all South Africans from materialism. It doesn't help when we just take things away from white materialists and we create a small group of black materialists. That's not going to help the country. We need to break down materialism as a thing. That's the issue that we need to wrestle with. Everything belongs to God. And you can say that and you can even nod along, but you don't get it. I don't get it. We need to think, we need to wrestle with this. Talk to your family and your friends in your Bible study. Think about these things. What does it mean? What's the implications of this? The last bit of the story is just, that's how it is with the one who stores up treasure for himself and is not rich toward God. Now, there are many passages in the Bible. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, be careful not to store up treasures for yourself. You should store up treasures for yourself in heaven, because where your heart is, there your treasure will be. You guys know that phrase. And again, we've heard it a lot of times, so it's a little bit difficult to actually make sense of it. But I think I finally understand what it means. If you want to know where your idolatry lies, if you want to know where your heart is, go look at your budget. Go look at your money. It's great at indicating what's your idol. And I'll be the better Christian here and start off by confessing that if I look at my money and the way I spend my money, it reveals a certain idol. So I don't like spending money. Me and my wife fight about it constantly, because as soon as we have to go eat out, I'm uncomfortable, and then just to spite her, I order a slice of bread and water. And then I say, enjoy your fillet, really. Which is not good social skills, good for your marriage, or just good in general. But I don't spend money like that because I'm a better person, right? And I don't want to spend money there. I don't want to live in a fancy house. I don't really particularly like fancy cars. I'm not into that. So I think I'm off the hook. But when you realize where your money is, there your heart is, you know what I spend money on without even thinking about it. I don't even blink. Books. If I can get the bigger, the shinier, the better. Just give it to me. I go on Amazon, I buy those books in a heartbeat. I don't even think about it. And you know why? And I mean, it seems like a more noble pursuit than all you evil people who like to eat out every now and then or buy a nice dress or whatever. But you know why I can buy books so easily? Because I get a kick out of it. Né? That I can fool at least 4 of you to think that, no, this guy really knows what he's talking about. This guy is a smart guy. That's where I get my identity. That's where I get my fix. Just so that 1 or 2 of you can affirm my poor little soul and say, wow, Johan, yes, you just know so much. Where your heart is, where your money is, that's where your heart is. It reveals your treasure. My treasure, I'm ashamed to say, is to have this little bit of affirmation that says, oh, no, Johan, you actually know stuff. How do you get to know stuff? Well, you buy shiny books, you read it, and now my little ego is saved. We all have that. But it was money and how I spent my money that revealed something to me. It revealed my idolatry, what is most important to me. I'll encourage you guys to do the same. And it's sometimes good to fast from that. So now I think, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't buy books because maybe this is my idol. Maybe I must just, because I have enough books, maybe I must just chill for a while. So how much should we give? I know I'm jumping around a little bit on this topic. So some of you guys might say, okay, well, Johan, maybe I must do the tithing thing. I must look at my budget and tithe again, give my 10%. Not that easy. The way that we earn money today, the majority of us, I'm not assuming that this is the case for everybody, but for the majority of us, giving 1/10 of your money it doesn't make any difference to you. Because we earn more than people earned back then. A 1/10 in a Middle Eastern context, that was a lot. Those people felt it. But we will be legalistic if we think, okay, I must just take 1/10 of my money and then I can live off the rest. That is not the biblical principle. You're being legalistic here. Just notice what C.S. Lewis says about this. about giving money. He says this: I do not believe one can settle how much we ought to give. I am afraid the only safe rule is to give more than we can spare. In other words, if our expenditure on luxuries, amusement, etc., is up to the standard common among those with the same income as our own, we are probably giving too little. If our charities do not at all pinch or hamper us, I should say they are too small. I didn't write very well here. They ought to be things we should like to do and cannot do because our charitable expenditure excludes them. Here's what he's saying. If your giving does not hurt you, you're probably not giving enough. It's not a tenth. It should hurt you. So here's the thing. And I mean, this scares me. Don't think that I'm enjoying this. I'm a little bit, but it scares me as well. You should not give from your excess. Your giving should hurt you. So in other words, you must look at look on a month budget and say, man, I would really like to do that and that. Okay? But I'm going to give so much that I can see that I'm sacrificing that. That sucks. But then I think you're in good space, where you can literally feel, oh, I really wanted to do that, but I can't do that because I gave money away, so I don't have money to do that. It shouldn't just be from your excess. It must hurt you. Because now the model for your giving is not a 10th or a 15th or a 20th. It's the cross. That's the model. Sacrifice is your model for giving. Thank God Jesus didn't just give a 10th. You know, he would have been in Gethsemane. I give, okay, that's enough, guys, I'm going home. Because that would have been a 10th. He gave everything. That should be the model for our giving. Let me end by saying this, that I've seen some wonderful ways in which people give. And I'm not this hermit asking for you to have this aesthetic life and we need to sell everything and we must live in a house somewhere and start a little cult and you guys can call me rabbi and eat when I tell you to eat. That's not what I'm suggesting. I've seen people who are rich, but they do not allow their money to own them. And guys, there's something so liberating in that. So liberating. I just started out in this ministry game, and I met this guy, and he's a big MD of a company, and the one day he just asked me for my bank details, and this is, I don't know, 2011, 2012, I'm not sure. And he paid in about 30,000 rand. For me, that was and is a lot of money. And I was like, whoa, that is, I didn't expect it. I first looked at it and said, oh, 3,000 rand, thank you very much. And I said, no, there's an extra zero. And I phoned the guy, and I said, dude, thank you so much. I don't really know what to tell you. And he just said, yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? I said, yeah, it's pretty cool. He said, well, it was actually a business venture that came off. I forgot about it. And when it came off, the first thing that crossed my mind is, how can I give this money away? Where can I give it? And then I spoke to some of my other friends, and they also got the same email and the same SMS from the bank, because this guy was just thinking of various ways in which he could give, could bless. And you know what happened instantaneously in my head? I looked at my 30,000 rand, I thought, how can I give? How can I give some of this away? So I phoned my domestic helper, asked her, what's the next thing that needs to be built there? And we built a toilet proper. And I've never enjoyed myself more than going there and figuring this thing out. But it was because I was sort of in the grips of the gracious heart and this guy's understanding of theology that really got me there. Another friend of mine, he started a big property company, and I visited him in Cape Town. He lives there in Rondebosch, and it's this massive house. And I thought to myself, geez, dude, not really suffering for Jesus here. And the one day I get there, and there's this big party. There's a tent on the lawn, and it's a wedding. And I ask him, dude, are you sure you're at the right house? He says, yeah. I said, whose wedding is it? He said, I have no idea. So I said, surely, I mean, they're in your house, they're using your kitchen. Surely you must know whose wedding this is. I don't have a faintest clue. I think they came by, they looked at it, and they really liked it and asked if they can have their wedding here. And you said, yes, yeah. So you don't know the people? No, I don't. And I was so amazed, but the point was, it's not my house. It's not my yard. Somebody came, they looked, they said, this would be a nice wedding venue. And he said, well, yeah, it's God, so I need to suck it up and allow God to host a wedding on God's property. That is, now bear in mind that it sounds great, but it's tough. I mean, I've been trying to live out this principle in various ways, in hosting people, giving them accommodation when they do not necessarily have the capacity to do that. And then it's bizarre because I can hear them eating their porridge from a mile away. When that spoon hits the bottom of that thing, it goes into my heart, and I want to kill everybody around me. When they sing a song whilst I'm trying to work upstairs, then, dude, this is my house. You don't sing here. Stay in your room. You're sleeping for free. Just shut up. Don't sing. Don't be happy. You know, and it's the point is it's not easy. It's not sentimental. It's not a quick fix. But I pray for patience. God, reveal to me how I should do this. What is the next step? Help me to realize that this is really not my house. All of that. It's such a healthy exercise without being sentimental. But God said, you must carry your cross. We must follow him. My life is not about eating, drinking, and enjoying life, whatever. It's about meaning. It's about meaning. That is what sustains me, not anything else. And that's what's supposed to sustain us. It's not easy. As Chesterton, G.K. Chesterton said, the Christian ideal hasn't been tried and found wanting. It's been found difficult and left untried. That's where we miss Christianity. It hasn't been tried and found wanting. It's been found difficult and left untried. I'm going to pray for us, and then we can have a conversation about this. Lord Jesus Christ, we thank you first and foremost that you didn't just give a tenth. You didn't just give half of everything. You gave everything. And we want to thank you for that. We want to honor you, Lord, and acknowledge that we are caught in the grip of that grace that you bestowed on us. Lord, I know we struggle to think along these lines. We struggle to make sense of it. But please help us to realize that our money is not our own. Our house, our car is not our own. And it's going to look different for every person here, how they apply it. I'm not suggesting that we should just give it all up and sleep on the street or whatever. You've called us to do your work, and that means that we need to rest somewhere. And some of these luxuries are, in fact, necessities for us to continue to do your work in the corporate space or wherever. But I do pray, Lord, that you will not leave us, that this nagging question will infiltrate our complacency, that we will be uneasy, but that it will be a godly problem that we have, a godly, uncomfortable feeling that will overcome us, and that we in community will figure out how we can best give and best serve. Yeah, Lord, help us to really understand that the cross was not just this abstract, cute thing that happened 2,000 years. It changes everything. And that we are in the grip of that grace for as long as we are here. Thank you for the time you have lent us, Lord. Thank you for those of us who do have a house. Thank you for borrowing that to us. Thank you for those of us who have something in the form of cars and in the form of kids and family and friends. Thank you for borrowing that to us as well. Help us to really see this world as a gift, Lord, so